Hello there, troops. It's Crusty Old Crow back again to do the Tactical Perspective toy review. I just got back from Toronto the other day. As you saw on my roadblock video, I was really happy. I got a figure I really wanted out of the Toys R Us I think it was in Markham, Ontario, just in Greater Toronto area. I got a roadblock for under 20 bucks, and I got the Tiger Force Outback for under 30, and I've been having a hard time getting a hold of those. And so I was really excited and did a quick video in my car. And you know, I'm back home now in Ottawa, and I'm gonna do another video this time following up on that. It's gonna be a twofer. We are gonna do Outback, Tale 2 Outbacks, right? So we got Outback number 63 and Outback number 39 Tiger Force variant. We got the boxes. We have the same art, virtually, by at least the same artist on both boxes. One is in the plastic packaging housing, as like, you know, the plastic carbonite freezing, you know, very stiff hold on the figure. With the Tiger Force in the background, that logo. On the back, you got, it looks like an area they plan on patrolling at best, and then some legal mumbo jumbo, and just what we all refer to as wasted space in this. And then on the back of this one, you get at least a digital render of what's coming with the character. A big old rip from when I was so excited and opened it and didn't realize I hadn't clipped both sides of the tape. That was a terrible decision on my part. And then the same legal mumbo jumbo on the sides. We got the primary combat functions. They're PCFs. You can go on to Hasbro.com, I guess, look into it, and you can find out what this means. And then, like I said, similar art styles on the two figures. Actually, I did notice there is a difference in the PCFs. I have no idea what it means, but the top PCF is different on this line. So at some point, he switched qualifications as he got older. I'm thinking it is the same character. They are both Stuart Outback Selkirk. And there isn't one that says senior or junior, so we're talking about the same character. Remember, guys, if you've watched previous videos with myself, then you know that I did not grow up with the cartoons. I was a po' boy. At best, I would be like Raker, trying to dial in a certain frequency on the UHF channel on our little black and white TV to try and get a staticky, quick glimpse of a G.I. Joe episode at a certain time of day on a Saturday. It didn't usually work out. And as an adult, I only really watched clips of them. I did read the comics off and on as a kid, but G.I. Joe comics led me into Marvel, X-Men, Avengers, stuff like that, and I read those more than I read G.I. Joe. But the figures, I had tons of them. Outback was one I couldn't get. This guy right here, if you remember back in the 80s, if you got him, he was kind of the guy to get. At least in my area he was, because growing up in Kingston, you had enough stores, but I shopped them all. I tried, or I got family members to look at Christmas time and birthdays, and we could not find this guy. And the reason I wanted him back then is you got to remember, in that era, it was the 1980s. We were just out of a decade out of Vietnam, and one of the biggest action stars in that time frame from mid-70s into the 80s was really Chuck Norris. He was huge when it came to action movies, and to see this guy come out just reminded me of like the Delta Force, Chuck Norris, and you know, the guy who did countless movies where he'd go back to Vietnam and bring back POWs or take revenge or do whatever, or kung fu movies with even Bruce Lee he did. Trying to find this guy was an objective I had, and I failed every time. I couldn't get him, but I got him now, right? If we get into the character, and I am going to turn it over there in a minute, but I'm just going to take you back. There he was laid out with his file card. And we'll talk how they've changed the weapon a little bit, but they've still kept the slung weapon, the big old backpack, Outback here with the flashlight on his hip, and the webbing. And this flashlight, as you can see in the next, after we get past the comic book shot of him, we'll see that the flashlight is detachable. And I didn't know that back then. I definitely would have probably been even more upset about not having got him, because that was a feature that Joe's just didn't have. I didn't have Tunnel Rat either, if he had one. But it was cool that it would clip on, and it was its own accessory and therefore its own part of a story. So that was Outback. I didn't get them, and now I have them. And looking at the detail, yeah, I totally see Chuck Norris in this figure. And so I switched up my format a little bit just to play around with the idea of having two of the same guy. And because I had so much fun when I was in my car on the last episode trying to move things along quickly, I'm just going to roll into the figures. But guys, I moved Cobra Island setting a little bit and did it for a little shout out to Zach Galifianakis. So we've got Craig McDowell running a talk show about Between Two Chucks. So we've got both of our Outbacks here. On the right, you will see that we've got the number 63 line, normal shelf, plastic-free packaged version of Outback. He's got that white survival shirt, the brown webbing, and the backpack. He's got the red ginger hair and beard with the bandana draped across. It's a lighter, I think, green from here I'm seeing. Yeah, he's got a green bandana, the black gloves and watch. He's got the green tactical pants with on the right hip, he's got that hard mount holster. It's not a soft holster, it's a hard mount, hard plastic. And then the knee pad down to the boots. And on the left thigh, he's got that the trademark flashlight holder to justify how he can mirror his predecessor figure from the 80s line. So now his flashlight does go on his hip. It was a point I didn't like about the figure, just thinking as a soldier, but as far as paying tribute to the original, they got it, because not only that, if you go down the boot, he also has his hard point or hard plastic knife sheath there. And we'll just reset him there. Okay, and that comes into play as well as one of my dislikes, but likes. When I say dislikes and likes with this figure, if it's a dislike, it's probably a bit of tactical or just my own preference based off some experience I have. And if it's a like, it's because they really captured it with what they envisioned with the figure originally, okay? So during this little talk show thing, I picture Craig doing Zach's job and asking the awkward questions about what it's like to be the only male ginger in the Joe collection, and is he protective of Scarlett? Are they okay, or do they, they need help? And then, I can't help but notice that the old frosted head here, he's got the spoon in his hand, which just totally works with it. I think his whole image is just great. When we got into the being the same guy, I just have 1,000 things to say if this was this guy's old man just staring him down, be like, I'm so proud of you, boy, look where you got, like, you got there, proud of you, boy, right? And it's just, but knowing they're the same guy, you kind of have to push these kind of little jokes at their head. But yeah, I put a spoon in his hand as a gimmick. Sorry, I have fun. All right, so one of the reasons I didn't originally want the Tiger Force variant was because of the t-shirt. We're gonna get there, but if you look, the difference on the heads is that the Tiger Force variant clearly has a more aged, much more veteran-esque kind of head, in that it's the same sculpt, but gray hair. And when I say it's the same sculpt, I'm actually thinking it's not quite. I think they lowered the brow on the silver-haired one. Let's get a close-up, guys, and you tell me, did they lower the brow? So, there he is. And there he is. From the same angle. I do think they lowered the brow. Let's try and get them side by side here. Well, anyways, it's a neat little point that I just picked up just now, so I'm not going to dwell too much on it, guys, as I keep getting my hand in front of the camera, because I'm such an amateur. And I'll re-put the camera on there. There we go. Apologies for the shoddy work, but I am a staff of one. So, getting back to it, that is the difference between the heads, is apparently, I think there's a brow sculpt alteration there. And the hair is much grayer, clearly. And I prefer that, being an almost 50-year-old veteran. I like seeing a senior Joe out there. So the senior Joe gets assigned to the special Tiger Force division. And that's the orange shirt, which I took such issue with. And then I think I mentioned it in another video about where I didn't like the Tiger Force variants of things as much. But the images I had seen at that point, bearing in mind I had not come across one in my shopping in Ottawa, I had seen them all online, and I think I was seeing a much brighter rendition of that orange. When I got it in my hand in the package in Toronto, I was fine. I was like, no, this is a muted pumpkin orange. I am good with this. So very happy with the t-shirt on him. And I'm equally happy with the traditional white original survival t-shirt and the way that they rolled up those sleeves. And they've got those fit lines as you look at the figure, right? It's not just a paint, it's a beauty sculpt, right? So it's got the ribbing lines where the shirt stretches over his muscle tone and definition, and it's great. And the whole torso is not overly restrictive for flexibility. It's got the normal degree of trademark Joe articulation, back swivel, forward swivel, and joint swivels. All that hinging, everything works on these figures beautifully. They're stiff enough to pose, but they're loose enough to manipulate, right? So perfect little balance. If you get one that is really loose, that's an oddity at times. I think there, at least my experience has been with collecting these. So I like the t-shirt and the articulation, no problem. And then if you look at the bare exposed forearms, he does have the red forearm hair in his forearm here. Nice little detail point there. You know, hairy forearms, manly man. Oh, I just realized I hadn't turned this light on. Let's brighten this situation. There we go. So yeah, he's got the hairy forearms, and so does senior version over here. He's got the hairy forearms there, and they are great. Loving it so far. All right. Their kit is exactly the same to a point, guys. There is a few minute details in the way the kit is laid out, but we'll get there. The webbing on both characters has that pinhole lineup with the pin on the back. As I've talked about with other figures, how when you have just the normal torso and the hole in the back for the backpack, everything's fine and dandy, even for posing. But as you add particular features like webbing or tactical vests and things like that, you start getting into whole lineup issues and putting stresses on pegs, possibly, things like that. So that factor does exist with these figures. They do have the backpacks. They have very long pegs for their backpacks, and that webbing is required to line up. So you do get what you get here. You see how his harness starts to ride up. So certain poses, as you go, you have to shift his web belt downward after you get the backpack in. But you'll still find a lot of gap, I found, with the shoulder harness part of the webbing. So just be aware of that. You'll have to just play and refine with it, right? And dial it in with your mandibles and manipulating the web belt gear after you get the backpack in. He's got those tactical gloves and that black tactical watch. And then on his variant, he's got a more flat, maybe darker brown glove set with the green watch and wristband set there. Okay, and you can see that the accessories are off-toned from each other a little bit. Like his is a bit darker brown here. His gloves are a slightly different shade, things like that. But again, all the sculpts are the same. Going down on the pants, again, same sculpt. Even the same digital idea of the camouflage is there. It's this, not the exact same pattern, but it's the exact same theme of camouflage with the swirly off colors of the light green versus the darker green swirling in pattern. This one's got a dark green, almost like a flat black going on, or a dark gray flat black, gray green, like a German gray green, like that kind of uniform black. They both have the knee pads at the things, and they've got the it's right at the hinge system. right where the joints are. So you do want to try and get the knee pads as forward as you can, which I failed to do here. On the holsters on their hips, okay, the hard pack holsters again for their pistols, and then on the hips, the flashlight mounts, both are the same. And then the boots are the same. They've got the laced boots, which I'm a big fan of. No unnecessary gaiters blocking the way, or lace protectors, or even shin guards. We are just straight laced and going on a patrol here with this guy, right? And then down there, you've got the hard pack knife boot sheath there. And the reason the knife and the flashlight and the pistol aren't mounted is because we're going to talk about them separately quickly. But that's what you get with the figures, and you can see the differences between the two guys. There you go. So you got Outback and you got Montana's, because he's a bit spicier, like I say. Both have pretty much identical features with nuances and differences about them. So we'll pick up this one here, and we'll just talk about the backpack before we do the rest of the accessories a little bit. So you got that big Bergen style British Riggins backpack, right? So all these component modular pouches. In real life, guys, the Brits, the Canadians, and I think even the Americans have been using it for a while. These are modular pouches. So these are meant on a singular backpack that you add these pouches on and bracket them in. So you can see different configurations of this in the military, where it's almost the identical pack, but they've got them laid out differently. And that's the idea. They're interchangeable and things like that. But certain pouches are always dedicated for certain items. And the reason we do that, guys, is so that our teammates know where to find our stuff. So some examples of what you might see in a guy like this, right, is in this main body pack, down below, underneath some waterproof packing. Like, yeah, his pack's probably waterproof, but we used to throw like a garbage bag in there to keep everything dry, and you'd bundle it the right way. He'd probably have some rations, like maybe a couple of days worth of rations and a couple of heater packs in there so he can eat. Some spare ammo might be sitting in there, some dry socks, change of underwear possibly, and then some bug juice or whatever, like just some small amenities within here. And then we're talking the stuff that teammates need to get at and he needs quick access to. So things like paracord compass, GPS, maybe a set of binos in there, a first aid kit somewhere along here, more ammo, so maybe some rope, maybe his rain gear, Gore-Tex socks if he's going to be going through some water, just stuff like that. You see how he's got this bundled part to the pack. I'm going to take the pack off really quick. See that long post, and I had to wiggle that right free, right? So you can see all this canvas parting here, so you can definitely see how it's meant to come apart. And he's got that back. I love this detail. It bears in mind the structure of a human back. It's got that curvature and lumbar port, but it's not committing itself to any particular rail mount system or anything like that. But this is the main pack with the attachments. So then we've got our posts here. One's meant for his entrenching tool. That's right. You guys want to call it a shovel. I'm going to call it an entrenching tool. The reason I do that is because I have one of these in my car, and it's great. Like these actually collapse in and fold in on themselves, and they're meant for basically sitting in a pack pocket like this. Picture that handle all folded down, because this folds down as this collapses, and you've got a fold down system that fits into one of these pouches as such. Right, that's what we had in my recce dime, and it's just mine was just meant for quick digging of a quick shell scrape. It's a quick little small trench, not very deep, just deep enough to get my horizontally laying body into a pit in the ground if we ever came under mortar fire or sporadic gunfire in an ambush situation, right? So things like that. It's just meant for scraping up that stuff. But it can also be used as a close combat weapon, as you've seen probably in the odd action movie or read about possibly some stories about World War II and World War I. The entrenching tool was known to be used as a defense weapon, guys. So that's his entrenching tool in his backpack out of the way. And you get this rifle with them. It's like a M15A1 type, I guess. I'm not sure what the American variant of it. For us,
This would be a C8 variant, but I've got the mag in wrong, but there you go. I didn't have it in tight. But yeah, it's got that removable magazine, as you see, rounds to the top, tap once, tap twice, now you're ready to go live. And he's got that removable 4-stock grip, which is really great for close quarter battle under 200 meters and things like that, right? And we've got our, I'm gonna accent this. This is what I really like seeing on this. Little features like this in the classified. So there, I'll try and keep it in focus while still showing it as best as I can. But if you really pay attention to the side of the rifle, the right side of the rifle, right? Ammo goes up. If anybody ever doesn't have the qualifies, never fired weapons or anything like that, just quick. Ammo goes up, gets fed onto the bolt. Bolt fires the gun. The bolt carrier and the firing pins strike the primer of the round goes off and gets fired down the tube. The gas drives the action back, picks up the next round, but that round is coming out the side ejection port. So you've got an open ejection port on these rifles because it's being fired and he hasn't closed it. So it's been fired recently because every good soldier knows when you're done firing, especially if you're out in the elements, you close that ejection port. Right? So his is open. So he's recently fired. He's been in action recently. I have a hard time believing he's a sloppy ass soldier. No one here has been, right? Look at the beards. If you're a beardo, okay, you're not allowed to be a sloppy ass soldier and be a beardo. Okay? It just doesn't happen. You're not allowed. All right. So both rifles, both guys have the exact same kit, as I was saying. We'll get into the other accessories. So we've got the boot knife, and I had an issue with the boot knife in that I don't like having things strapped to my foot at all, and having a weighted down knife when I'm trying to traverse through brush, undergrowth in the forest, perhaps a swamp or two, where I could possibly lose it, snag it. It could trip me up. I don't agree with things being hooked on around my ankles or anything really below my knees. Perfectly my opinion, guys. If other guys do it, I do understand the purpose of the boot knife, and I do know of boot knives that do work better than this. My issue is that these are much too wide sheath and they look too heavy, too clunky, two straps across there. And these are the knives that put on their heavier survival knives. I'm just going to show you there. Heavier survival knives. And there's thinner, smaller blades that guys do have an ability to strap onto their boot, but it's more of a sleeve that hooks into the boot and less reliant on other things that like big clunky straps and huge sheaths, okay? But I appreciate the thought of it. And in the 80s, this is how the figure came, so they included it, and I love that they included it that way. Just, you know, when I go to customize mine, if I decide I'm moving that sheath, I'm doing so with this in mind. So on the hips, before I move on to hips, you will notice with these, Tiger Force version of each accessory then comes in this faded, or this like medium engine gray. Okay, this is the accessories. They match his belt buckle kind of, and I guess his hair. I don't care. The spoon didn't come with them, so joke was over with the spoon, right? Everybody got where I was going, Kellogg's. So yeah, the knives and all other accessories are then molded, and that's what you get with Tiger Force's gray. Okay, one thing I did notice also with these is that there is a width difference with the pistol hilt, or pistol grip, sorry, on the included pistols, which we're going to talk about next, which are these. Okay, so both are the same, very technical looking, high-end. I have no idea what kind of pistol they're trying to represent. I feel like they're probably a fictitious or different design I've never had exposure to, but I feel like they're almost sci-fi-ish. But the principle behind it is that he's got a strapped on, almost kept either laser designator at the bottom of the barrel and the receiver group right there, and it's strapped on, right? So it's the same gun. And otherwise, normal action, I guess. I don't know how this strap, because this is why I'm thinking it's a fictitious gun, because or something I've never seen, because I think this is the forward sliding motion and it has nothing to do with here, right? And most of them, it's the entire upper receiving group that says forward sliding motion. That's how you take it apart, right? And that's how you get at the actual barrel and everything and all of that stuff, right? You slide it off. And in this one, I think that's what these spring pieces are showing here. Sorry if it's out of focus a lot, guys, but this is as good as I can get. Anyways, when you get a closer look at it, that's why I'm not familiar with that at all. But the gun does look very explicable and workable. And I do like the scrim that they wrapped around the pistol grip. His gloves can get wet and his pistol grip can get wet. And just having a little bit of extra grip there in whatever form made sense for a survival character. And having that scrim, you never know when you're going to need it to actually patch a wound or make something, right? So having that there available was great. But what I noticed was the Tiger Force one, I believe it was, had a thinner pistol grip than this, the regular variant. And then what I'm getting into is, okay, so does that change the ammo? Because if it changes the ammo that they're using and the caliber of the ammo for that pistol, then it's good that they went with the hard pack pistol holsters, because you could slide a mag maybe into this part or justify that this is the mag housing, and maybe it's a detail that they could have included and they canceled it, that these would be a mag part. But you could slide the pistol in there and hide certain things, but that pistol grip is visibly a difference. And these mag pouches, I think, are dedicated more towards his assault rifle, which is fine. But I'd be curious why they did that, if somebody complained about the pistol grip between the two designs, and what the justification was for that. But it was just a little detail I picked up on, that they were different widths. So then that brings me to the flashlights, which are the trademark item from the original figure line. Stuart Selkirk does have these flashlights, and you can see that they do use a metallic reflective tape on both. One's more of a, I think, a green gray. It's hard for me to tell, again, with that color blindness. And then this one's more of a muted black, I think. Almost a violet, I don't know. But the black design and the green design, or gray design. And guys, I love it. The flashlight, I do. Because I had this flashlight in my career. Mine was, of course, the Canadian olive drab green. But every soldier who ever joined the pre-2000s ended up with that flashlight in their rucksack at some point. And this is what I meant by I don't like that side harness. That's, to me, not a priority position for a flashlight, is on the thigh. If I have to carry stuff on my thigh, I'm going to have my map in my pocket, or perhaps my sketch kit in a pouch here, for when I get to my objective that I'm recceing and I want to take my image of it. And that's what we do. We do sketches. We write the details down. We'll go all around the objective and get information with our eyes, the Mark I eyeball. And it's sometimes as simple as a sketchbook or even a camera, right? Or a cell phone, if you want to be so bold. But old school, it's just a simple field message pad and a pencil, right? So the other thing I would prioritize here, of course, and you guys heard me say it in other ones, is first aid kit. Look, this guy's not wearing a single piece of armor, right? He's moving light. He doesn't have a helmet. He's not even wearing a bush cap. He's meant to be running if he needs to run, because he's got the information he needs, and he's beetling the hell out of there. Yeah, they say he's infantry and he's specializes in survival, but this guy is built for reconnaissance, right? That's why he trained at the reconnaissance center. And that's why you move light. So once you have that information, you run that shit back to your command so that they can act on the information. And you do so quick and light, because any unnecessary noise, like banging around in the bush, and heavy kit will make noise. You'll bang around, you'll move heavier, you'll sound heavier. you'll displace ambient sound more. Things like that will happen. You want to be that light to avoid that kind of even passive detection, right? So I don't agree with having stuff on there, but if he's not going to wear plates and all that, he needs that first aid kit, right? He's got to have the ability to give himself little patch cuts, definitely a tourniquet and at least a pack of bandage on the side. Some sort of representation there, not a flashlight. A flashlight can hang off of, it can hang up here, it could hang off the back of his belt. It's a very specific neat item. You need a flashlight for only a couple of things when you're a recce guy like he is. It's, yeah, you need it to see in the dark, but you know what you need for that? If you want to avoid detection, you want a red lens flashlight so that you can look at things and it minimalizes how you're seen. All right. And it's also for passing codes via light signals, right? So you want multicolor lenses, but red lens again is usually the go-to for a lot of that stuff in a lot of militaries, guys. So that, like, those are the little details that we have, right? That we could throw in there as military veterans working for Hasbro. So we've got that going on with the figure. And I've talked about the flashlights enough, and I think that's a really nice detail. But again, weighing down those legs when the rucksack is the preferred option for that stuff to me is a failure. So who's my favorite out of the two before I get into my grading? Okay. Before I bought the Tiger Force version, Montana's over here, I was a big fan of this one, and I was actually advocating against this one because of the tiger graphic orange t-shirt. I was just like, I know that orange really only works in particular types of forests and tree lines. I don't think it works well in everything. I would have preferred a darker color, but then you would have gotten the yellow leg stripe, some sort of other Tiger Force representation. Once I had it in my hand and I saw how well that tiger emblem was done, and the fact that it wasn't the orange monstrosity of a shirt that I thought it was from images I had seen, it was actually a more muted, passive, almost pastel-y kind of pumpkin orange. And yeah, it worked for the figure a lot better. So this one I identified more with because he looks more my age, guys. And with my age comes my connection, especially if I never had the figure as a kid. So my connection to the original, because I never owned him as a kid, wasn't as much as, say, with Rock and Roll, who I did, or Breaker, who I did, or Roadblock. I just like showing him, who I also had, right? I had that freedom of, hey man, it's a brand new figure in every way for me. And I have actually really connected to that one. So that's my favorite. All right, guys. So the playability grade we're going to go with on this one, I had that at an A. The only issue really for playability is that the backpack peg lineup issue with the webbing creates that bunching. So that takes it down from an A plus to the A. And that bunching has this residual effect that you really have to pay attention to these riding up on the leg when you go to get them in crouch positions, because the webbing then gets bunched up and creates that hoop even more, right? So it's it's a cascading effect down the web line, how that looks as you crunch the figure's pose. So that is why it went down to an A, because in standing he looks awesome, and all the other poses, as long as he's vertical or most semi-vertical and up, he looks great, and the kit looks great on him. The rugged appearance, everything was done right. They've got the ejection port open. I thought that was really cool. They've got the right gear. Just not a fan of this stuff on the side, but it's how the original appeared, and I can respect that. So it's an A on the playability. On the tactical side, okay, that's where this costs him the marks. For me, I don't think it makes tactical sense for that to be there when there's other necessary stuff. It's almost like nothing being there would be preferable to just a flashlight. And this was too clunky for what they were trying to design in my eyes. And also, I'm not a big idea of I'm not a big advocate. I get weapon storage being a necessity, but I'm not an advocate of them doubling the trigger mech as a post holder for carrying weapons on these figures right now. Just simply because I feel it's irresponsible, for one, guys. I'm going to turn it over to me for a minute. I'm going to put that back there and hope that I line that camera up accordingly. All right. So I feel that's irresponsible for people who have handled weapons to advocate that that's just okay. It's just design, guys. It's a bad message to send about weapon safety in this era of everybody being paranoid about guns, okay? I don't own a gun, guys. I never have. I don't have my own gun. And I'm not saying I never will, but it definitely looks like it's going to be a very much harder and harder thing to do when and if I do decide to have a gun. Do I have an interest in guns? Sure. Yeah, passing. I had a career handling guns, guys. I've handled more than enough guns. I've handled guns from Canada, the US, Slavic countries, like every kind of gun I've handled in some form or another. I'm not saying all of the guns, but I've handled a very diverse range, all right? And I fired quite a few of them, and not just the ones that the Canadians provide. And the thing about the guns is that in the news, in the media, every time a military-esque gun shows up in the wrong person's hands, it has a cataclysmic response with the governments and the gun lobbyists, right? And showing something like that, where we just excuse this as a creative design need, to me, is irresponsible, guys. That is a life and death mistake that somebody could irresponsibly just not ignore. I'm not saying people are dumb about their guns, but representation, if kids grow up understanding like, oh look, yeah, my dad's trigger mech in his gun, you can just carry it around like this. You know, I could even put the mag in and carry it around like that. Right? They don't know about the safety mech or the bolt catch or any of that stuff, right? They just know they saw it on there. Right? So that's my big takeaway on the tactical, and and like I said, just talking as an adult with military experience, guys, please don't teach that this is anything less than a life-death decision make point right here. That's what it is, okay? This doesn't mean that now is. That doesn't make it okay either, guys. Why is that? Because there could still be a single bullet sitting on the face of the bolt of this weapon that could go off. All right? Because the bolt of the weapon has a catch on its face to pick up the back of that round. All right? If you don't eject that round when you take that mag off, your weapon's still hot. So I might be still carrying around a hot mag, putting all that weapon's weight onto the trigger mech. All right, enough on that, guys. That's my preachy point of the day, and I'm sure somebody out there's probably brought it up in a video at some point, and good on them. Respect that. But you know, you guys know I'd really like to have a talk with Hasbro as a veteran about maybe getting on with one of their design teams. And it's stuff like this that makes me want to do it, right? Like, you had a really good sculpt, great sculpt gun, everything like that. And then this happened. And that kind of gets me. Anyways, guys, tactical, everything else, yeah, the flashlight on the leg, the boots, I'm going to put it down to a B plus on the tactical. You know, I still wouldn't choose orange out on patrol, especially if I'm trying to survive out there. It's not my top tier of colors to wear. But I love that detail. It made me fall in love with the shirt. But I'm also not a big fan of the white t-shirt if he's out there doing his job either. I'd like to see something that's more enviro. Unless he's out there in the winter, then why he sleeps up, right? But those were, again, that's the original design, and I'm not trying to speak against that. I love these figures, and I love especially that classified stays with those original designs, guys.
thanks for being here today. Thanks for sitting through all that. I know it's a longer video, but we did 2 of these guys today. So let me know what you think in the comments. And if you like the video, please hit that like. And if you really like to hit that subscribe. And I'm going to try and go back to shorter videos and 1 at a time again. But this one, we're talking about 2 guys. All right. Have a good one, guys. Take care.